Hello and welcome to South Africa Open for Business. I'm Elni, Giokos, and this is the first of a series of debates where we'll be looking at various aspects of the tourism industry. What exactly is tourism and why should it be everybody's business? Using the FIFA World Cup as a departure point, tourism ought to be the next great business opportunity. Last year, South Africa hosted the best ever FIFA World Cup. FIFA President Sepp Blatter gave it a resounding 9 out of 10, and we all know that it's only because he wanted to dare Brazil to compete. After all the congratulations, we hone in on South Africa's tourism industry. Let's take a look.
After the last whistle was blown and the last fan left our shores, South Africa had the monumental task of making good on the gains made in that fairy tale period of Africa's first ever World Cup.
Simply, the World Cup, what it really has given us, it's given us a new status in the Premier League of Nations. It's given us a golden ticket to compete for hosting other events, for getting a bigger slice of sport tourism, for attracting top talent, to obviously attract investors and tourists. And that window of opportunity is running out because the world's attention is very quickly shifting to the next FIFA World Cup host, Brazil. So in my opinion, we have another 12 to 24 months to leverage the legacy for tourism and investment.
South Africa has a complete ministry dedicated to growing tourism. It's an important job spinner.
Over the short term, we will have to work hard to go to the levels that we want to go. But in South Africa, we are building on a solid foundation. But obviously, we are linked to the broader global economy, and it will take a long time to fully recover.
The key is to build on that legacy. Other country hosts have made a science out of it. The Barcelona Olympics of 1992 gave the city a blueprint for leveraging from successful hosting. In 10 years, they halved unemployment and doubled tourism by hosting recurring sports events.
Now, sports tourism is a $600 billion industry right now. It's an industry where we can now compete for a major slice of the global action. And if we do that properly, and the keyword is here to campaign, what the FIFA World Cup has done for us, it literally has given us an entrance ticket into this Premier League of Nations. We now need to campaign for more tourists, we need to campaign for more investors, and we need to campaign very hard for creating our own events and attracting the world to our shores.
Massive investments were made by government in infrastructure such as airports, roads, stadia, and transport leading to the soccer showpiece. The focus has turned to the return on investment on that investment.
Of Germany, for example, where you've now seen 5 years onwards, the renewed self-image, the renewed self-confidence has boosted the economy, has boosted export, has boosted tourism, and that is a real legacy.
Tourism is a numbers game. One permanent job is created by 8 tourists that visit the country. The challenge lies in making sure South Africa remains top of mind as a sought-after destination.
Joining me in studio now to debate the state of tourism are Roshene Singh, Chief Marketing Officer at South African Tourism, Gillian Saunders, Director at Grant Thornton, and Ms. Mmatšatši Marobe, Chief Executive Officer at Tourism Business Council of South Africa. Ladies, thank you so much for coming through today. Much appreciated for your time. And there we watch back the FIFA World Cup and how successful it was. And now it's met with perhaps oversupply of rooms, an industry where we're starting to grapple with perhaps less demand for the product of South Africa. But many say that we still need to quantify the effects of the FIFA World Cup. Mmatšatši, let's start off with you. Can we quantify it? And I know that you've said before that we are basically looking at would-be tourists converted into actual tourists now because of the great sentiment surrounding the FIFA World Cup.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. And it was wonderful to see that piece. Just shows what a great nation we are and the achievement we made for the World Cup. But like the intro has said, a lot of people are making the mistake at the moment talking about oversupply. You know, we in the industry, not because we're trying to spin this whole thing, we tend to want to talk about an under demand. Because one thing that people should not forget is that South Africa hosted the World Cup in the middle of a recession. You know, we came out of a lovely boom time, 2007, 2008, and come into the middle of the recession. And we must be grateful that the World Cup helped us to smooth over the effect of the recession, which other nations have been feeling. And so where we're sitting at the moment is that, let's not forget, our traditional tourists gave South Africa a miss in 2010. You know, those who used to come into our shows, they really didn't, they went to other places. And the recovery of that, really, you must give it anything between 18 months to 24 months for them to come back. That's why we talk about under-demand. But also we must understand that the leveraging, the after effect of the World Cup, it also takes people 18 to 20, 24 months for them to, the word of mouth, to convert into tourists who can really come to our part of the world. And so, where we're sitting at the moment, we're sitting in October. We are seeing some recovery already in the marketplace. The numbers of tourists that have booked 18 months ago after having this good effect and experience about South Africa, we are expecting it to be coming in the early new year. And so as business, we're very optimistic to 2012. And you know, I was just in a meeting last week with some of the hoteliers in the country. Very, very optimistic about corporate market locally and also internationally.
Gillian, what's also quite fascinating is that tourists are starting to change their behavior extensively, and we went on this splurge in terms of increasing room capacity in the country. And it seems that the way that the products are consumed when tourists do come to the country is changing quite rapidly, and really just showing the erosion of sentiment on a global level, where people are worried about their jobs, they are worried about the state of the global economy. Is that the right presumption to make?
It is, to a point. So tourists are certainly changing their patterns in how they book, where they spend, how long they stay, all of those things. So we're seeing two things, really. If you look at a lot of our tourism, it is sort of 4-star, 5-star, and then game lodges, 6-star, 7-star, whatever you want to call it, very luxury. People are saying we can't afford that, or even if we can afford it, we'd rather not spend our money on that at the moment, because there's a degree of uncertainty for them where they are in the generating countries in terms of employment continuity. The other thing is, and we've heard this from a number of people, it's anecdotal, is that there's a notion that it's conspicuous consumption to go and say, I went and stayed at the 7-star luxury game lodge. So people are just trading down for a lot of different reasons, and they're looking for the timeshare, self-catering, the guest houses, the bed and breakfasts, and moving away. But I think when we talk about our industry, we mustn't forget that the hotel industry, which is one of the areas where they are seeing some of the poorest trading conditions ever for more than 20 years, has a lot of demand comes from the domestic business market, and that's also been constrained over the last 18 months, and that's an important component for them as well.
Roshene, let's get a sense from you. FIFA World Cup, can we quantify the effects of that? Do you share the sentiments that we will start seeing the spillover effect going forward, and 2012 looks far better?
Well, from a marketing point of view, certainly the FIFA World Cup was the best bonus we could get for tourism, and we were the big winners of the fact that there was just so much positivity generated for the destination. People saw us as a country where you can be outdoors, where there's a variety of activities to offer. They saw Johannesburg in a completely new light. They saw people of South Africa and the nation celebrating at that time, and that we are welcoming, and that tourists can have a fantastic time when they are here. So that positivity went up by about 6% just after the World Cup, and we think that we could continue to capitalize on that, because you must know there are a lot of barriers from a marketing point of view before people decide to travel to a destination, and there are issues around access to the destination, safety, and what is there on offer are all questions that people continue to ask.
What is our biggest barrier right now for South Africa? Is it still safety? And I think that's an easy one to answer in a sense. But
I actually think that the World Cup dispelled a lot of the main issues around safety. So, you know, that was the great thing about the World Cup, is that it showed that we didn't have any incidents, and we had 1 million people here between June and July, although about 300,000 came for the World Cup itself. And there were no incidents. And a lot of the big events that we have had in South Africa have shown us in a great light. So I think that the barriers at the moment are about actually getting to the destination, so finding the flights to get here, especially in the markets which we're calling the emerging markets, the markets of the East, like China, India, markets like Brazil, where people need to get here, they need to get access to the destination, and they want value for money. So although South Africa is a very affordable destination, we have to constantly push how much more value we offer.
Right, exposing South Africa as a destination to the rest of the world is a full-time job. South African tourism has secured billions of media value through ad campaigns, which air in both the entrenched and new markets across the globe. This is one of the 20 Experiences campaign. Let's take a look.
My name is Bimbo Shomolu.
And I'm Sheon Shomolu. Never been to South Africa before. Great to be here. I mean, this is as wild as it gets.
Most of the times we go on a holiday, we go to Europe and America, but really, this is home. Here you have diversity in everything. South Africa is actually the giant of Africa.
They can rival any Western nation on the globe.
Wow.
For us personally, it's been just one big honeymoon.
Wow.
And making us fall in love again.
This is a beautiful country, and I'm proud to be African.
All right, shifting focus now, and obviously we're focusing on the marketing aspects. How effective are these marketing campaigns, Gillian? I keep on talking about sort of quantitative analysis with regards to, and qualitative analysis with regards to how effective our campaigns have been on a global level.
Well, I think our campaigns have been very effective, and we've done a very, very good job of getting the brand out there and improving the knowledge of the brand. There's a huge market in, take the United States or Europe. There are a lot of people there. So to get that message to all of those people, it's a hard, difficult thing to achieve. And I think SA Tourism's done a great job. I guess what we sometimes think is that we could have been broadening that message to certain other markets. Those markets being probably people at different economic levels and also in the emerging markets. But at the end of the day, we don't really have the budget. That's what we would say from an industry perspective.
Tell us what the budget looks like right now and where you'd like to see the budget.
I think Roshene knows the budget better than me, but I think it's around, we're talking about 700 million thereabouts, give or take. And I believe Australia is nearly twice that much for their international marketing. So,
Yeah, I think that, as Gillian says, we can go out there and we can market the destination because we have such a wonderful destination to actually make available. And as I said, it's also about the lifestyle and the people of South Africa. But you have to customize your marketing. So that means that you've got to put it in the language of the people that you're speaking to. Also, we know that word of mouth does more for marketing than anything else we could do. So we've got to make sure that people who come here have great experiences that they then share. So you would see from our marketing work that we've used consumers from the markets that we are interested in to come and have experiences in South Africa and then speak about it to others. So you'll see our marketing campaigns in Mandarin, in Portuguese, in French and German, various languages that we customize. But ultimately, it's about driving that awareness into actually closing a deal.
Where do you actually want to start marketing yourself aggressively? You mentioned the emerging market space and you talked of China and India. You also spoke of geographical challenges that we experience because it's difficult to find flights into South Africa. You also mentioned Germany and France as well. Are we targeting countries across the board, those people that do want to spend and have more of an exotic experience?
Well, South African tourism, focuses on 20 markets across the world where we actually run marketing campaigns. They are made up of markets within the continent of Africa, where I think we have the biggest benefits and the biggest opportunities to grow is within Africa itself, because you have high spending tourists that come into the country for various reasons. And then our core markets remain markets in Europe and the USA. But we are now expanding our marketing footprint to include the new markets and the emerging destinations, because those are the destinations where GDP is growing very rapidly. For example, GDP has doubled in both India and China over 10 years. That means people have more discretionary spend. Whereas the markets of Europe and USA are still reeling from the effects of the global economic crisis, and we are a long-haul destination. But we want to maintain and defend our position in those markets because we will never make up those numbers from the emerging markets.
Mmatšatši, when it comes to some of the challenges that lie ahead, I know that you've spoken of the local currency being quite strong, and I know that we keep talking on CNBC how strong the local currency is and how it's going to affect manufacturers, but it also makes people think twice in terms of coming into the country. And the campaign that we saw a short while ago with the dashing man playing golf, saying that the cost is fantastic. Can we maintain those kind of costs where we are competitive when everything is increasing, from electricity to even new toll roads on the highway system here in Gauteng?
Well, the very short answer is that we can't. And I think, going back to the earlier question you asked Roshene, one of the things that we need to mention as well is that South African tourism, as Gillian has said, they've done a good job, and with the limited budget that they have. And where we sit as an industry, because the big issue that everybody keeps on throwing our way is that we must offer value for money. And the reality is that, you know, we do offer value for money. South Africa is a destination like no other. People tend to throw in our faces the likes of Kenya, the likes of Morocco and other, they don't have the diversity of product that we have. And yes, the cost of running business in South Africa is becoming an issue. And here we talk about electricity and people start saying, you know, what is the issue about electricity? Let's just tell you, let's make it very simple, where the issue of electricity becomes an issue for us as businesses. The biggest investors in our industry is the hotel guys, the guys who own hotels. Now, most of the hotel chains that we have in this country have been in existence since the 1970s. What does that tell you? It tells you that the kind of, for instance, air conditioning that they operate with are quite old. So, for them to keep on chilling the rooms so that the guests have a comfortable stay, they have to use electricity. And then other people will say to you, why don't they update and come with the new technology? It's very expensive for people to do that. We talk about the local currency, the strength of the rand, while it benefits other parts of our economy, is bad news for us in the industry. Again, Roshene mentioned the point earlier on that, you know, a lot of tour operators are encouraging their guests to go and travel to dollar-denominated currencies. That is a problem for us. And, you know, the other big issue is the taxes. It's a big issue for South Africa. You know, Roshene earlier on talked about the issue of flying to South Africa is expensive. You know where the expense comes in? Is that, for instance, when you go through one of our airports, there is a tax that you pay as a consumer, you know, and there's a tax that comes from the airlines. Because you must remember, when an airline lands, when that airplane lands in any of an airport, it pays a certain fee. When that airplane parks that day, until it moves off, it has to pay. And those are the costs that we have to look at. It gets passed on to the consumer that makes travel difficult.
Right, we have to take a very short break, but when we return, we'll be looking at the continental and local markets. We'll see you right after this.